Thank you for joining. This is the second edition we're doing on AI with regards to Copilot. The first one was talking about Copilot Chat, and we took a look at the free tool and all of the cool features it has. And now this is the follow-on webinar. Now we're going to be taking a look at how Copilot actually works within your Microsoft 365 environments, just to help you guys make your work lives a little bit easier, which is what we're all here for. We introduce our guest speaker today, who is James Wilson. Now, James has covered previous webinars with us before, so probably a familiar face to you guys now, but thank you so much for joining me today, James.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And Ricky will be in the background again, another familiar face for you all. And of course, myself, Eve, who helps run these webinars. So let's just take a quick look at the agenda and what we're going to be discussing today and why it's relevant for you this morning, because I know we're all talking about security. AI is in every single meeting room now. I mean, even when I go home, my parents, my friends, my work colleagues are all talking about AI. And it's something that a lot of people are still struggling to adopt effectively. How can AI reach your actual goals within the business? Because just deploying AI tools out isn't enough to really get the benefits of them. So we're going to be taking a look today at how Microsoft 365 Copilot is different from the other AI tools that people are using. We're going to be having a look at some demos. We all have a real life case about how people are actually using it effectively in work, because then you can help and transfer it over into your work as well. And obviously security, because with AI does become risks, and that's why we are providing the secure AI tool, which is Copilot with your 365 environment. And we'll just show you exactly how it remains secure, because I know a lot of people, when they understand how the tools actually work, they're able to use them better and more to their advantage. And then we'll be finishing with some cool tricks, how to get most out of your 365 Copilot license. I'm presuming most of the people on this webinar are using Copilot already, so it's a great time to revisit the way you're using it and hopefully use it a little bit more effectively with your day-to-day activities. For anyone new who's joining, and we have got a few new faces today, which I'm really happy to see. Thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to join us at CSG this morning. So for the people who obviously know who we are as well, we won't dwell too much on this slide, but CSG are really excited to be celebrating our 40th year in trading this year. We've been providing security and IT services since 1985, and some of our amazing customers have been with us all throughout that journey. So thank you so much for sticking by our side and letting us support you for so long. We've got offices in Bridgend, Bristol and Exeter, so we do cover a wide range of the UK, and we've been great with employing new members of staff recently in apprenticeships, and we are massive advocates of apprenticeships. So all of our work we're trying to do is really give back to the greater community as well, with regards to making sure that everyone has a security first ethos, because day to day, who are you going to employ to cover over and take over your new roles when some of your employees retire and move on? You are going to want people who are driven with a security first ethos. So helping to build that kind of structure and just want to remain secure is something that we feel really, really passionate. I know that a lot of you have used to seeing our new consult, transform, protect strategy now, but we simplified the way that we message our services. So it's just the way that you can really visualize how we support you and help you. Again, a lot of you have obviously seen this, but we had such an amazing year last year, especially with regards to winning the Sophos Partner of the Year, something that the whole team are incredibly proud of. And yeah, it was a brilliant, brilliant achievement. We obviously Microsoft Solutions Partner, which means that we have all of the latest knowledge and updates with regards to the Microsoft products that we sell, which is what we're talking about today, Microsoft 365 Copilot. So when you partner with CSG, you're not just getting that kind of one-on-one experience with broad knowledge, you're getting that really in-depth expertise on all of the products and items that you use. There's nothing worse than when you get a new software or a new program, you don't know how to use it. That's why we're here to help you use it at the start, so you can be confident in all of the tools that you use. Our AI offerings. So we are helping a lot of our customers really get the most out of their AI tools. I know that, well, when I go out and talk to events and talk to schools, and the kind of difficulty is how do you basically get your employees to want to use secure AI tools? Because we can monitor things, we can police things as best as we can, but having that security first knowledge and ethos from the employees is the first place to start in making sure that the tools that you use remain secure. Because as we always say, your employees are your first line of defense when it comes to cybersecurity. So at CSG, we provide one-on-one workshops, we provide these webinars like we're doing today, and you can always go to your account manager just to strategize your AI adoption plan, because when you go into something, no matter what it is, without a plan and a real ROI on how you're going to use the software to your advantage, it can just be lost in the system. And then a year later, you'll be like, well, we've had this tool, but we can't actually show what we've done from it, which is why when you strategize with CSG before you deploy the AI tools, you can really get a good ROI and just experience the value from it to keep using it. So please do get in touch with us if you want any of the following information on the screen that you can see, because building that Copilot AI community within your organizations and letting everyone feel the true benefits of it whilst also remaining secure is something that we obviously feel very passionate about. So why 365 Copilot? There are so many different AI tools out there now that are being used. And obviously at CSG, we're Microsoft Solutions partners, and we see firsthand every single day the success and the lovely stories that our customers come and tell us about the great experiences they're having with 365 Copilot, the fact that it uses your data, the fact that it's working within your current ecosystem. You can open up, for example, PowerPoint. Your Copilot's already there waiting for you, ready to help. So it's just such a great tool and feature to use. Security, security, security. I can't say it enough, but Microsoft's trusted security, compliance, and privacy standards are obviously at the forefront of this tool. And no matter what industry you're in, you're going to have different compliance and regulations. They change all the time as well, let's be honest, with new programs that are coming out. There's always something to keep on top of. And that's something that you can trust that Microsoft is doing for you. So you don't have to worry if it's adhering to anything new with regards to security. And then communication and collaboration. I think as well, a lot of the time you think this is only to do with customers, but it's your employees as well that you've got to really make sure that your communications are easy access, marketing, HR, customer service, to make it all sync and making faster content creation. I know with social media these days, it's like the story's already gone before the news reporters even started. It's like you late to post it, and if you haven't posted straight away, it's that kind of real competitiveness. So Copilot really helps you quickly get that content out there, making sure that it's your written content as well, based on your factual and your data. So that's just another way of quickly making sure that what you're posting is correct as it uses your data.
Excellent stuff.
And that is my introduction. Thank you so much for listening to me. Please ask any questions throughout this talk in the chat, but I will hand it over now to James. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much, Eve. Really appreciate that. And a very good morning to you. Thank you all for joining us today. It's really lovely to see such good engagement with the AI conversations that we have. And I'll just echo again, if you've got questions, pop them in the chat. We'll get answers for you as best we can today. So for those who don't know me, my name is James, and I look after change and AI services. We work closely with the team at CSG and have done for a while now, to be fair. But today's topic is quite an important one, because it's the difference between the license that's included in Copilot, where it is free. We've done the webinar on that, and I hope some of you caught that. If you didn't, I'm sure you can catch up. But the unpaid license gives you a certain degree of capability with Copilot. The paid license does go quite a bit further than that, and it is quite important that we understand what we're paying for. There are a lot of people out there who who could get quite a lot out of the unpaid license. So just Copilot Chat is absolutely functional for a lot of teams. So it's important to know why you might want to go up and pay for a license on top. Some of the things that don't really change. One is that we are incredibly busy. Everybody is incredibly busy. And the narrative that Microsoft have put on this is pretty simple. They talk about something called digital debt. Digital debt is a very fancy term, but it basically means you start your day, you're getting emails, you've got actions, you've got things to do. And that doesn't really stop through the course of the day. You're participating in more meetings, you're getting more actions, and you're likely going to finish the day with still things to do. So they call that this technical or digital debt, where essentially you're getting jobs from the tools that you're using, but you're not able to keep up with them. So Copilot is about fixing that to a degree. It helps to remove some of the mundane work. Copilot Chat can do a part of that, but what makes the paid license a bit more interesting is that it is embedded into all of the applications that you're using on a day-to-day basis. So if you're a big user of Word or PowerPoint or Excel, then Copilot's going to be able to help you out in those places too. And that's very, very important. And one of the things that differentiates Copilot from other tools that are out there, and I am thinking of tools like Gemini and ChatGPT, these big branded AI solutions, is Microsoft built Office, and a lot of us are using Office, and Microsoft have figured out how to put Copilot into Office. So if you're working in Office, the AI that lives there is a pretty good solution for you. And what's more, they've figured out how to do that very, very securely as well. I'll show you a few things as we go through, just as a reminder on how you can make sure that your data is safe. We'll talk about that a little bit. But Microsoft has had a really clear message from day one that the AI tools that they build do not train using your data. Your data is your data, and they don't steal it, they don't copy it. It is not put on their website or anything like that. The key thing from Microsoft is your data. So there's nothing untoward happening there for you or for your customers potentially as well. So the business impact of using Microsoft 365 Copilot is starting to become clearer. Organizations are now starting to get much better revenue returns on these tools. I don't want to get too much into the statistics, but I'm quite keen on this one. Reducing operating costs, because it doesn't matter who you are, that's pretty helpful. That is a useful place to be when you can start doing things more cost effectively. There is all manner of discussion that goes on with AI, what it's doing to the world and what it's doing to the world of employment and all kinds of things. Perhaps we'll get into that a bit later, but for now, suffice to say, AI is definitely having an impact. And for those who use it sensibly, it's making a very positive difference as well. So let's talk a bit more about how this tool lives, how it's embedded into the applications. And I'm going to try and show you as many things as I can as we go through the course. I want to try and show you some live demonstrations. It's always a little bit risky when you want to try and do things that are live, but I have got my Copilot available. I've got it ready to go, and we are going to take a look at some live demonstrations as we go through. One thing I just want to point out, when you're using Copilot, especially if you're using it in the workplace, you want to be careful that you're using the versions of the tool that are safe. Now, every AI has a personal version that people can download on their phone, or they can get on their laptop at home, and they can sign in with a personal email account, like a Hotmail account or something like that. And then there are these professional versions of the tools as well. Microsoft 365 Copilot, if you've got Microsoft 365 through CSG, then you will have access to Copilot Chat. The best way to know that you're using a version of the tool that is safe is to look for this green shield in the top right corner when you're using the application. So if you're using the Copilot app, if you've got the green shield, you're in the right place, you are using the right tool. If you don't see that, that's a bit of a clue that you need to check and make sure that you're using the right tool. Now, I'm doing this right now through the Microsoft 365 Copilot app, but I could just as easily take myself off to the Copilot app in Teams. I'll just drag that in. So you can kind of tell the difference. There's the Teams bar down the side here, but can you see that I've still got that green shield in here as well? I'll just get rid of that message. So that's telling me that enterprise data protection applies to my conversation and that I am safe. And I can actually click on this if I want to know a bit more about that, and it would take me through to this page. And if you scroll down just a little bit here, you can see some of the things that Microsoft say. You know, your data is private, we don't use your data. Your data isn't used to train any of the models for AI. So they kind of tell you in black and white We're not doing anything with your data. So hopefully that reassures some of the questions that you might have around how you can use the tool safely. We could talk a bit more about it if anyone's got any specific questions as well. But something that's quite interesting then with this ability to get at your data that Copilot does have, because it does live with your data in your environment. That means it can understand what you're trying to do. It can understand who you are. It can understand your team, your business, and it grows what's called an index. So don't worry too much about the terminology, but as you're learning how to use Copilot, Copilot is learning about you as well. And something I want to reassure people about is when it's learning these things. So Copilot has access to your files in SharePoint, your files in OneDrive. If you're not sure what those things are, don't worry too much. They're basically cloud-based storage locations that are provided by Microsoft. And you typically get access to them when you have a Microsoft 365 account. But Copilot can see files that live in those Microsoft places. It can also see your calendar. It can see the events that you're going to attend. It can learn a bit about that. It can see the conversations that you've been having in Teams. It can see your emails, and it can see the tasks that you've been assigned. It can see who your contacts are. And that starts to be a little bit scary for some people, thinking, well, goodness me, Copilot can see a load of stuff. That's really sensitive stuff. Is it safe? It is absolutely safe. Copilot is your Copilot. And one myth I'd just like to bust while we're here. There is not one Copilot that sort of sits at the top of an organization and it works for everybody. Each employee has their own Copilot. So what your Copilot is learning about you is unique to your Copilot, and that Copilot belongs to you. It is your assistant. It does not share that information with anybody else under any circumstances. And you cannot inadvertently get information that you should not have access to from somebody else's Copilot. So a very common question that I get asked is, if it's got all this access to files, how do we make sure that if somebody asks a question of Copilot that's quite sensitive, how do we make sure that it's not going to give an inappropriate answer? You know, what if somebody asks about what somebody's being paid or something like that? If an individual cannot see that information, their Copilot cannot see that information. So it is respecting the permission structure that's already there. It will respect folder permissions and management. So if you can't see it, your Copilot can't see it. The same is true for everybody else. So it's your Copilot. It's there to help you. I hope that settles any concerns people might have had around inadvertently having someone else's Copilot tell them something that it shouldn't. That's not to say that you shouldn't just sort of check your environments and make sure everything is where it should be. I suppose there is a possibility that if you put a file into a public space where everybody can see it, then other people's Copilots might find that and start talking to them about it. But that's the same problem you kind of have already if you were to put a file into a public space. Everybody could potentially see it. So you would just have to be a bit mindful about things like that. To get access to Copilot, whether it's the paid version or not, you can go to Microsoft365copilot.com, m365copilot.com, and you can sign in. You always want to be signing in with your work account whenever you're using Copilot for work purposes, because that will direct you to the correct tool. If you try and sign in with a work account and you're signing into the wrong app, it will actually tell you you need to use this one. I'm going to send you to this one and sign you in, and it will do that. It's pretty clever in that respect. And then you'll always be able to see this shield. So if you are not signed in with your work account, so if you have managed to sign in with your Hotmail account or something like that, like an Outlook.com account, for example, you will probably not see that shield. I don't know if I can give you an example of this. So this is the personal tool. Let me bring this in. It looks quite similar. It is a Copilot tool. It's a Copilot app, but there's no shields. There's no account information here. And this is one that I use with my personal account. So there are different versions of this tool available. Some are sort of free to use at home and are personal, but the business tools always have the shield in the Copilot app and in the Teams app, certainly. Okay. Again, any questions on that, let me know. But that's how we get in, and that's how we make sure that we're starting off on the right foot. So let's start thinking about use cases. I'll talk a bit about this first, and then I'll show you some things as best I can. A Copilot is viable for everybody. I think Copilot is an amazing tool that is going to add value whatever your job is, whatever your industry is. It's just a matter of finding out how it can help you. Some roles have got a really easy job of figuring out how Copilot is going to work for them. If you're a salesperson, you might use Copilot to help you draft a pitch. You might use it to help you work on an objection handling conversation that you plan to have. You might use it to help you learn about a particular technology or product or service that you sell. If you're in marketing, you might ask Copilot to write copy for a website. You might ask it to create images for you, and you can do those things with Microsoft 365 Copilot very easily. You might ask it to help you plan a marketing campaign or to help you understand how to use a particular digital marketing tool. So depending on who you are and where you are, your uses are going to vary, but it is absolutely the case that everybody can use Copilot for something. To put that in context, I live on a farm, and this past year, ahead of the winter, we dug a French drain out the front of the property, which involved cutting through concrete, digging down deep, laying down stone, putting in geotextile, pipe, more stone, all this kind of stuff. I didn't know how to do any of that, but I worked through it by learning about that process with Copilot, because I knew I had an issue with damp in one of the rooms in the property, and I wanted to know how to solve it. And I worked through that problem with Copilot, and I did it myself using AI. So AI doesn't necessarily have a button that's going to do a job for you that's really useful. Sometimes it does, but really a lot of the value that you might find from AI is just getting extra help to understand things that you want to do. So working through those problems with the AI is very, very powerful. So a question you might ask yourself is, that sounds good, but where do you get started? And you can get started anywhere you like. All of the different departments in most organizations have opportunities that they can leverage. In some businesses, including our own here, one or two people do all of this stuff. We're not a huge business. There are only at Illuminate, there's only 4 full-time employees and a few freelance consultants who work with us as well. So a very, very small team. So we have a lot of hats. And I would say, you see slides like this and you think, oh, isn't this aimed at some gigantic enterprise business who've got all these teams and departments doing things? And it probably was when Microsoft created it, to be fair. But I would argue that even in a very, very small business where you might want to do all of this, but you certainly don't have the headcount to do that. If you're a business where you wear a lot of hats, I think AI is even more powerful, because it can help those people who maybe they know they want to do some customer engagement, but they don't have a sales team, or they're not particularly strong at sales. Well, they can learn a bit about how they would go about doing that and get some ideas around how they might like to do that. If you are a one-man band, but you want to generate more leads, you want to get more business for yourself, having a tool that's going to help you do the marketing, help you do the selling, help you manage your finance, help you manage your operational elements is really, really powerful. So it's a really good assistant that can help you with all sorts of things. I do have to add a caveat that whenever you're doing anything with any AI solution, there's always a chance that it can get it wrong, and it can give you advice that's not brilliant. That's true of people as well, to be fair. You could speak to somebody, they could give you bad advice, couldn't they? So it is important with Copilot that when you ask a question like that, so let's ask a question to give you an example. How do I complete my self-assessment tax return? Would be a good example. So then Copilot will go and it will look for information around that on the web, and it will provide you with an answer for that question. You might think that's a good answer or not. But unlike speaking to a person who might know the answer and might not, with Copilot, you actually get little reference indicators after the question and the response, so that you can see where is it getting that from, and then you can go and check that for yourself. And I'm pretty sure if it's coming from the government UK site directly about self-assessment tax returns, it's probably accurate, or at least it's defensively accurate, or as to why I might have got it wrong. So you can check the validity of the things that Copilot is saying to you when you ask it questions like that. Now that's something you can do without a paid license. You can do that with Copilot Chat. You don't need a paid license to just go and ask questions. So if you've already got Microsoft 365, you've likely got the ability to do that already. So do have a play with that. It's pretty cool. One thing you'll notice, there's a toggle at the top here. It's set to web at the minute. I'm going to switch it over to work occasionally, because that allows Copilot to see my stuff. And then I can ask it questions like, are there any actions that I said I would do last week that I have not completed yet? Questions like that are really handy with Copilot, because you can get it to just sort of check your calendar, check your actions, all that sort of stuff you can go through. I actually won't. I'm not going to dwell on that one too long because I'm a bit nervous what it's going to show up, if I'm honest. But you can ask it for things like that. You can say, who was it sent me that email, or where did I put that file? I'm looking for this presentation. I'm looking for this document. Help me find it. And Copilot can help you to do those kind of things. Now, the difference between the paid version and the non-paid version, if you want it to look through your email, to look through your Teams messages, who is it I was speaking to about that invoice? That's something you'd need the paid license for. It can't check your email if it hasn't got access to it, and you'd need a paid Copilot license for it to have access. When we're looking at processes and functions and trying to find ways that AI can help you, one of the things that's also important to think about is how you're going to measure that, because there is a real risk with AI solutions that people get quite carried away with them, and they're doing all kinds of wonderful things, but it's not really trackable how you are measuring the return on investment. You might just feel, actually, I really love having it, I don't want to give it up, and that might be enough for you. But in a lot of spaces, it's also good to be able to sort of justify to the finance team who are going to sign it off. Do you know what? It's creating more opportunities, or it's helping us to retain our customers better. Actually, it's helping to retain the employees better because they're finding it easier to do the jobs that we're asking them to do, and they're quite stretched as a team. It might be that it's helping us to get our finance plans over the line quicker, or it might be helping us cope with increasing numbers of cases if we've got customer service teams handling challenges that are coming in for the customers. So there's all different ways that we can measure the effectiveness of the tool, and I would encourage you to have a good think about that. If you do decide to sort of start a big Copilot or AI campaign, how are you going to measure that? One of the stats that people measure a lot is time saved, and time saved is a very, very good metric for understanding how you're going to get the best out of AI. The one thing to watch with that is it can have some negative effects as well. And I'll show you an example actually. So I'm going to start demonstrating some of these tools live now. And the first one, because it's everyone's favorite, is Word. Now, let's say that I've been asked to draft a new document, and it's a GDPR compliance policy, something very mundane. So I can go into Copilot. I've got this quite useful box at the top here that says describe what you'd like to draft with Copilot. And I can normally talk to this as well. I had a few issues with this of late, but let's give it a go. Copilot, I've been asked to draft a GDPR compliance guide for our sales team. Could you help put the frame of that together, please? So I can talk to Copilot wherever you see this microphone. That's really helpful, especially if you're going to do something quite involved. Some of us feel a bit silly talking to AIs, but find a quiet space and it's not too bad. But you'll find that makes it a lot easier if you want to do quite involved prompting and things like that. We talked a bit on the last session around what do good prompts look like, and we talked about I believe GCSE prompting models and things like that. So you might think that's like prompting you'd learn at school in this country, but GCSE stands for goal, context, source, and expectation. Goal being, what is it you want to do? I want to make a GDPR compliance guide. Sources, context rather, I want to make it for my sales team, or I want to make it for somebody who's not very familiar with this technology or this language. So keep it simple. The S in that stands for sources. So is there somewhere that you can learn more about it? I could have directed this to say, you can pull this from the UK government website to make sure that you're accurate in everything you do. And then the E is expectations. Is there something particular you want it to do? So you might say, I'd like that as a table, please, or I'd like it as a bulleted list, or I'd like it in French, or whatever the case may be. So we can check that through. But the point I wanted to make is that didn't take very long for me to get started with that. Now, some of us, myself included, be very tempted at that point to just sort of send that back to the person who asked me to do that job and say, do you know what, I've done that, thanks very much, I'm going to clock off early, I've done all the things that you asked me to do, I'm off. So you might see people who are tempted to do that kind of thing. But the reality is I've got to check it through. I've got to make sure that it's fit for purpose, that there are no errors in it, that it's answering all the questions that I want it to answer. Because if I don't do that, then I'm really just expecting the person I send it to do that. Maybe that's fair. But it's so much quicker now to create a document than it is to read it, that I could send complete nonsense back to them. It could be really bad based on what they wanted me to do. And really, I'm just wasting their time and actually wasting my own time as well. So when you're doing metric setting and things like that, be a little bit wary of time saved just because it could promote slightly negative behaviors that you don't really want to see. Okay, so let's talk about agents a little bit. So this is trying to build on some of the topics that we've spoken about before. So one of the first things is that there are agents that are made already for you. They are built into Microsoft 365, and they are included when you've got the paid license. So some of them are actually free. So the prompt coach, for example, I believe is completely free. I don't think you have to have a paid license for that one. So I was right to take that thing off screen. I'm really sorry. I should have shown it to you, but yeah, there's a good 9 actions that I've forgotten to do by the look of it. So I'm just going to remove all evidence of that before I bring it back on screen. Forgive me. I am just now going to go to this top left button here, and I've got this section in my Copilot app called agents. You get this in Teams as well, so you can do this in either space. And you see, I've built a few agents, and I can go and see all of my agents if I want to. I can make a new agent as well. But I want to start by showing you some of the agents that are included because they are pretty good and they don't need you to do any building. So these are the ones that I've got installed currently. I can add and remove other ones as I see fit. Just underneath there, and again, I'm in the all agent section, there's this bit built by Microsoft. These are the ones that Microsoft have created for use. And there's a few in here that you might find interesting. So if you do a lot of writing, you might like the writing coach. You want to do a bit of self-study, you can use the learning coach. The one I'm going to demonstrate first is the prompt coach. So let's open that one. When you open it the first time, it will probably say install. And when you click install, it might ask you for some permissions. So check that through, make sure you're happy with it, but there's nothing too untoward going on there. Then once you've got it installed, you can open it and it looks like this. And you can see it's got some sort of quick prompts that it's just suggesting underneath. Is this something that you want? So you can analyze a prompt. You can evaluate if the prompt is compliant and following the rules, goodness me, or you can just get a bit of help generating a prompt. So help me generate a prompt to be used in Copilot. I'm actually going to start with that. I'm going to send that into the prompt coach. It's now going to very predictably ask me, well, what do you want the prompt to do? So actually, I'd like a prompt. Help me write a prompt. Oops. Actually, let's talk to it again. Let's not waste time typing. Copilot, can you help me write a prompt to work out how to improve my website? What's good about the coach is you don't have to ask, you don't have to build a big prompt. You can just give it a clue as to what it is you're trying to do, and you can send that in. And then the prompt coach is going to say, yeah, I could do that. I do want to ask you a couple of questions. So here are the questions it wants to ask me. So I'll base it on our website, the Illuminate website. And let's just say it's a consulting services website, the Illuminate Learning website, which is www.illuminate-learning.co.uk. It was a nice try, wasn't it? So just fix that bit. So that's the website. And then it's got some more questions for me here as well. And it's saying, knowing this, okay, so it's not actually asking anymore. So what type of website is it? Okay, fine. So let's just send that into the prompt coach. And now it's going to ask maybe a couple more questions just to tidy up this prompt a little bit more. Now that I know the goal and context, I just need one more ingredient. Do you want Copilot to analyze anything specific? Okay, so I could say, for example, so we've done some basic search engine optimization on our website, but what we're finding now is that more and more people are finding us because they've asked an AI to help them with a problem, and we'd like to try and figure out how we optimize for appearance on AI platforms. Can you help with that, please? We can just tell it what the problem is we're trying to solve, give it some information, answer its questions as best we can. And if you're not sure, by the way, you can say, do you know what, I'm not sure. Do you want to just use your best judgment? Are we here now? Are we there? Still got context. It needs one more. It always just needs one more piece. The context of this. Once you tell me the format, I'll generate your complete ready to paste Copilot prompt. So the context in this particular situation is kind of why you want it, what you're trying to do with it. I've kind of expressed this bit here. What format do you want it? Could I have that, please, as an action plan and perhaps a checklist as well? So that gives it a bit more context of how I want it. I would actually argue that's the expectation, but nobody's perfect. Here's the prompt. And this is one of the things you'll find with the prompt agent, is that it does build enormous prompts that you would probably never spend the sort of time to do. But I'm going to take that and I'm going to copy it. And I can now go to my own Copilot. I've got this nifty prompt. I'll give it access to the work resources as well. I'm going to paste that in and I'm going to run that. So the Copilot prompt agent is designed to help you figure out the right way to add the detail that maybe you don't know, so that it can take a look at your problem and it can build you a really good prompt to help you with that. It's going to take it a minute, I think, to do that. So whilst that's doing that, I think I'd like to show you just another demonstration. So we'll leave it thinking about that for a moment. One of the things you might find lately, if you're using Copilot, is it spends a little bit more time thinking about things. Microsoft added this button at the top, this auto, and it now basically decides how long it's going to think. So you can actually tell it to do stuff very quickly, or you can tell it deliberately to think longer about problems. But when you give it a big prompt like that, the default really is that it's going to spend quite a lot of time thinking about it. So you have to be used to it taking a bit of time. I'm going to jump away from there for a second, and I'm going to show you a couple of other things that you can do with the paid license from Copilot. So one of the most useful things that you can do is this. Just bring this up. Now, not everyone uses Teams, I appreciate, but it is quite a popular tool now. And one of the things that you can do with Copilot is have it take notes in your meetings. So I'll show you what that looks like. We just open up Teams. I've got a fake meeting here that I'm going to join. Got my fake person who's going to join his fake meeting. And the meeting is being recorded. That's quite important. The meetings do need to be transcribed, at least for Copilot to be able to work. It checks the transcription to see what people have been talking about, and it uses that to help you out, basically. And then from there, I can ask it questions. So I could, do you know what, can you suggest an agenda for this meeting? Could you suggest some bullet points that we should talk about, please? Can you suggest anything that might be urgent for the group to discuss? You could ask it things like that. This is a click-through demo, so it does some pretty basic stuff, to be fair. So suggest some follow-up questions. What's the impact of the supply chain, things like that, and so on. Now, once Lee has had his meeting, he can drop out of there, but he can go back in at any point. He can check the chat history, find the meeting, and then look for what's called the recap function. We open that up. It shows the recording, who said what. It's got the meeting notes here that have been AI generated as well. It's got mentions, that's when somebody puts your name in the chat, and it's got the transcript for the meeting. You can see the full transcript is there as well. But where this gets a bit clever is that I can use Copilot with that transcript, and then I can ask it any questions that I like. So again, simple questions in this demo, things like, what decisions were made, and I can send that in. Copilot's going to be able to look through that transcript and provide me with a summary of the things that were discussed and the decisions that were made. I could specifically ask it to list out the action items. I could ask it to draft like a follow-up email to the delegates to just tell everybody what their actions are, when they're due, who's the owner for each action. I could get Copilot to do all of those things. So these are quite simple examples of what it could do, but you could put a much more involved prompt into there if you wanted to. So Copilot is able to help you out in your meetings and after your meetings as well. And it can check for things like sentiment. I could ask it a question like, what was the general tone of the meeting? How did people feel about this change? Were they happy or were they cross? And Copilot will look through the transcript and it will say, well, actually the kind of language that was used seems to be quite positive. It looks like it was pretty well received. Or it would say, actually there's quite a lot of negative language in there. It doesn't seem like this went over as well as you would have liked it to. So Copilot can do all of that off of any meeting that you've attended. In addition to that, it's got another quirk as well, which is when you sign up to a meeting, I'm just going to bring in the meeting invite for this session that I accepted. So this is my invite to our webinar today, and you'll see that I accepted it. You've got some options here. Now, on these ones, I've just got decline and tentative because it's a webinar format. On some other meetings, let me see if I've got a good example. Yeah, so here's a good example. So on this one, can you see I've got follow as well, and that follow option allows me to tell the organizer, Jen in this case, that I want to follow that meeting, and basically that will ask Jen, do you mind turning on Copilot and the recording so that James can follow? You know, he can't be here in person, but he wants to have a look at the recap. So it kind of gives her that clue that I'd like to follow the meeting, so she can turn that on, and I'd be able to do that. Let's say we're getting on with our other thing. If you've got any questions about how the Teams meeting tool works, the question I get most on that, if I'm honest, is how do you get it to work when you've got people physically in the room? That's probably the most common question. Actually, looking at the chat, it looks like Nicola's got that question as well. Could this work within a hybrid meeting? It can. It is a bit awkward, I have to say. It looks like this is broken, by the way, so I'm just going to stop that. And I'm just going to send it in again and see if we can get it to work, and then I'll answer that question. Always the way. Live demonstration. Don't trust Copilot, right? So yeah, your question is, could this work within a hybrid meeting? So if you've got people in, lots of people in the room, that does make it more challenging because Copilot, if you were to say run it from your laptop and say, hey folks, I'm going to run Copilot, I'll capture all the notes and I'll share them with you afterwards. Let's say you've got 5 people in the room and maybe a few people on the call. Copilot will do a really good job of attributing what people say if they are in Teams. So the people on the call with you, it would work perfectly. The people who are in the room with you would all come up as you. So anyone speaks, it would say, such and such a person says whatever it is, and it would all come up as you, Nicola. So in that scenario, the workaround for that right now is to kind of develop a bit of a habit where you say, for the benefit of Copilot, Nicola's just agreed to do this action and so forth, and here's the time frame for it, that sort of thing. So you give it a clue so that when it goes through the transcript, it can see there was an action here. It looks like that's for Nicola. So that's the workaround for that. It's a bit clunky, but that is the best option on the table at the minute. Microsoft do, for quite a few pounds, sell a Microsoft Teams environment that can be installed where it's like dedicated microphones for you and all this sort of stuff, but it's an extremely expensive solution, so you'd have to be quite committed to want to do that. The other option as well is that you can actually train your voice profile. So that's the next solution that they're working on. It's not available just yet, but they are developing a solution whereby effectively you can read things to it, and it will learn your voice, it will learn your tone, and it will recognize you, and then it will be able to differentiate you from others. So that's something to look forward to, but it's not available just yet. But that's the sort of the future plan for that. Just a quick look through here. I can see there is another question. I'll come on to that in just a second, Alex. But here we've got what it's done based on the website. So it's kind of had a look, and it's saying, here's some bits and pieces for you to consider. So Copilot has done a fairly detailed job there based on that prompt I gave it being quite a big and involved prompt. It's given me quite a lot of information. So I could potentially use that for this job of sort of checking over the website and seeing if it's okay. And I could use that as a sort of foundation to do that job. I can go a bit further than that, and the next tool I'd like to show you is the researcher. This one takes a bit longer. However, I've got one I've made earlier. But there is another question, so let's just quickly answer that. And Alex is saying, we hold a lot of meetings in Welsh, of course, as well as have many documents and chats in Welsh. What is the best way of handling our data via Copilot when so much of the content is in a mixture of English and Welsh? So yeah, that's a good question. And Copilot can understand Welsh text. I think you may find there are mixed results when you are using it to speak in Welsh in a meeting, how well it captures that and handles that. Technically, Welsh is a supported language. Microsoft has about 40 supported languages, and I'll show you how we can do some translation tools a little bit later in the presentation. But yeah, right now, I think probably the best advice I can give you is just to be aware of the limitations when you're in a spoken context. So if you're in a Teams meeting, you may have to make a point of very, very deliberately sort of calling out the actions. And it pains me to say it, but you may have to do some of that in English. However, there is support for Welsh, so absolutely you can give it Welsh documents. You can speak to your Teams client, your Copilot client in Welsh, and it will understand you. It will respond to you in Welsh as well. So there is some positive there, but I would be lying if I were to say to you that the Welsh language responds as well as the English language. It's an American tool made by an American company, and unfortunately they are better at preparing it for English than they are for Welsh. So some challenges with that sort of thing, but there are ways around it, and I'll show you a couple of things in a second that might help with that as well. So the researcher agent, and again, this is another one of these agents that's built in. You can go to all agents, you can nab it from here. You can see I've got researcher agent, and I'm able to just open it. So I've got this one. Let's say I wanted to get this one to do the website review and improvement suggestions. Now I ran that earlier because I knew it would take quite a long time to run. Researcher goes really deep, and it takes maybe 10, 15, even 20 minutes to go through your request for you and generate quite a lot of detail. So I made sure that I ran that earlier so that we wouldn't have to wait for it. So I gave it a similar task. It asked me some questions, and I gave it some answers to those questions. And then it went away and it did stuff. And the reason I like to show this is because if you were to go and do some research, you might do this. You might look at some sites and evaluate what their home pages were like, what the sort of similar sections to yours were like. You might go and look at SEO and try and understand what that was a bit better. You might go and have a look at LinkedIn and so on. But the AI agent did all of this stuff for me. And it did it very, very quickly if you think about just how much work it's doing. So even though this took sort of 15, 20 minutes tops, it's done an enormous amount of work. And then when you get to the bottom here, it produces the output. So this has taken a look at the website. It's looked at the optimizations. It's done a little graphic here for me to help me understand a bit more about that. It's talked about what we need to do for SEO. It's gone through and looked at the headings and made sure everything's clear, given us some idea of the keywords we should put on the website. What about the technical performance of the site? What about all of this kind of stuff, off-page SEO? And you can see I'm not even halfway yet. So this is a very, very in-depth report. So let's say that this has got everything I need. I'm happy with it. I'm going to go a bit quicker now because I suspect not all of you are interested in website optimization. I'm going to scroll right the way through because it's an enormous document, loads and loads of support on how to do this particular job. Right. When I get to the bottom here, I can see the sources of information it used. So as well as the website, it looked at a few other places. How structured data shapes AI snippet. Oh, okay, it's interesting. So it used its own knowledge, it used our website, it used a few supporting sites, and then it's got some options down the bottom here as well. I can turn this into a Word document very quickly. And when I click that button, it's going to pop up, open Word, and it's going to open it in the browser. It's just doing that over here, look, so you can see. I would probably just immediately go to editing and open in the desktop. That's normally my preference for how I want to work with the document. And there is my report. So that's ready to go. It's been formatted nicely. It's got all the content. It's got the links. I haven't seen a document like this since I was teaching students how to use the bibliography settings and things like that for referencing. So it's a really formal document, loads and loads of detail. And now I can put it in Word. I can edit it. I can share it. I can do whatever I want to do with it. I'm actually going to keep that. I'm going to call it website review and improvement. Fine. So it's saved. Got it. So that's my document and that's built. I could be editing that. I could be changing it. If you do want to edit a document in Word, you select the bit that you want to edit. You go to Copilot and you say, do you know what? Can you rewrite that? Can you make it shorter? Can you make it more formal? And Copilot's going to do that. You can tell it what you want it to do as well. You can write the instruction. So you can get Copilot to do a bit more. But for something like that, I would say you probably want it more formal. So I'm not going to wait for that, but that's how you do that. So let's come out of this document for now. And out of that browser document as well. So that's one option. The next thing you'll see is I've got PowerPoint here. I've got PDF and I've got infographic as well. Infographic's quite an interesting one because that will set it off sort of generating code and so forth. I could hit the PowerPoint button. I'm going to show you a better way. If you do want to build presentations, I'll show you a better way to do that. than to just sort of use it off of the researcher. So we'll leave it doing its code nonsense, and we're going to go and just open up PowerPoint. So I'm going to open a blank version of PowerPoint whilst that's doing its stuff, and I'm going to go to Create with Copilot. And then I get this wizard that pops up, and it says, well, create a presentation about what? And in this case, I can type this out and ask it to build me a presentation about website optimization or whatever it is that I'm interested in. Or I can actually just reference the file. So I can click on that, and at the top of my list is the thing that I've most recently worked on, the website review and improvement document. So I can select that. If it doesn't appear here, I could go and find it by clicking this button and going into the files, because it might not be the most recent document you've worked on. So I could go and look through some of my other documents if I want to. But it is this one that I want to use. So I'm going to select that. So I can say, this is a report on our site. I'd like simple overview presentation, some nice clear actions I can put forward to the owner. And I can send that across. And this could be any job, by the way. I've picked website optimization just because I feel like most people have seen a website if they haven't got a website. But it could easily have been another job. I've used the researcher to learn about new technologies that I need to build training programs for. I've used the researcher to understand how to make Christmas dinner. I've used the researcher to understand trends that are affecting the manufacturing industry or the construction industry for different partners and customers that I've been working with. So there's no limit really to what you can ask the researcher to do, and it will produce this large document for you. So that's building away. Whilst that's doing that, again, there's a lot of leaving Copilot to do things. Some of the jobs we're doing today are quite big, they're quite involved, big documents behind them, so they can take a little bit longer. So I'm going to jump back to my researcher now and show you that infographic that we were building. So that looks like this. So you remember it was doing all the code, it was building this graphic essentially. So it's basically said, here's the audit. So I could actually kind of offer this now, couldn't I, as a service to a customer? So, hey, look, I've audited your website. Here's your action plan. And then it says, here, look, you've got some strong keywords, you've got good visibility, but it's not optimized for AI. You could do better there. You could add some extra descriptions and so forth. And it tells you some of the stats around the site. So it's performing very quickly, which is good. It hasn't got much data to it. It's not very old. So there's a good summary of what's going on in the site and some of the things that might be nice to do. So here's a phased timeline for what you could do to improve it. Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then some of your immediate next steps. So nice little action plan, which is what I wanted, and it's kind of gone away and it's done that. So that's available to me now. I can nab that and I can just go and paste that into somewhere else if I want to. So again, we're looking at tools that are specific to the paid version here, but the infographic button is quite a nice one when you're using the research agent. So there's a couple of agents that you kind of have available to you. Now, there are agents that you can build. We're not going to get into building agents right now, but you could absolutely build an agent that does a job for you. And as an example of that, quite a common ask for building an agent is to give it like a company handbook or an HR policy and build an agent that's going to ask questions about that. Hopefully that's not such a good outcome. All right, I'm going to try that again, but whilst it's doing it, I'm just going to open up any old presentation that I might have. Just a second. Did I already have that one open? Maybe I need a different one. There we go. So I've got a presentation that I've been working on here. And I mentioned earlier that there was some positives for people who work in multiple languages. One of the new features that's been added, and I'll need to seek your advice, Alex, on whether this does a good job, or anyone else who's fluent in Welsh. But when I click the stars at the top of the presentation now, so they're just here, look, this only appears when you've got a license, but I now have this opportunity to translate the presentation. And then you can see the languages that are supported. Quite a few. Importantly, right down the bottom is Welsh. and I'm going to translate the presentation into that. And it doesn't get rid of the original presentation. So if you want the underlying presentation, this will keep it. But what it will do is quite quickly create a presentation in the new language. And you can see that it's created a few formatting challenges, so I might have to go through and resize and adjust things and so forth. But I wonder, Alex, if I could get a thumbs up or anything from you. Have a quick look at that. I don't know if you'd like to see the one underneath it again as a comparison. Let's pop the two side by side, but you can tell me whether you think actually that's nonsense or you know what, it makes some sense. So certainly they are trying to get it to a point where it is easier and easier for you to get native languages and things supported by these tools. So let me know if you've got any feedback on that. That's an example of that tool in action. I am hopeful that our Copilot tool will be done building our presentation. Let's have a quick look. I'm sorry to cut across. No, there is a bit of a problem with that one. Fortunately, I do have an example of this that I've got sort of saved. So let me just show this one. We are kind of towards the back end actually as well. So what I might do is I might hold that presentation and I'll stay on the call and I'll show that for anyone who wants to see it at the back end. But what I don't want to do is overrun for people who've got things to do. So actually at this point I will be shutting myself up and Eve, I'll chuck back to you because I know there's a couple of bits that you'd like to go through on the back end. So let me just jump to that. We've not talked a great deal about licensing or how you kind of get this stuff, but the key takeaway is that when you are buying Copilot, you essentially have a version that's included with Microsoft 365, and then you have a version that you can go and deliberately pay for. So the version that you go and pay for is what we've been talking about today. That's not to say you can't still use your free version, but yeah, that's possibly enough for me. We've gotten a bit carried away with agents. So Eve, over to you to kind of get your points in, and then I'll show that demo for anyone who wants to hang on.
I was so lost in the demo, so interested. I didn't realise the time either, but that just goes to show it was such a good. No, it's no problem if we run a bit over, because if anyone does need to drop off, I will be sending them the recording afterwards as well. So anything you guys missed, don't worry at all. We have got some questions to go through, so yeah, we'll just get started on those. So the first one we've had through is: do we have to take any further steps to make sure that our data is secure?
Yeah, data security is obviously a massive consideration. So work with your partner, do a bit of an audit, make sure everything is where you would like it to be. Copilot Chat's pretty good in that it doesn't go and look at your data off the bat, so it's pretty safe to use that straight away. So that's a good interim step if you want to start getting some value out of AI, but you haven't had the time to do the full audit. So I would say look into Copilot Chat as your starting point. Simultaneously, have a conversation with the team at CSG, who will help you to figure out a strategy for how you organize and prepare and protect your data. There are some tricks as well. If you know that you've got a really messy SharePoint environment, it's like 10 years of junk that's gone on there, and lots of us have, then you can go and look at the specific folders that you want to protect, things like finance and HR and things like that, and you can exclude them from search in SharePoint, which stops them from showing up in Copilot. So there are some tricks, but yeah, you'll want to do a bit of an audit on anything that you need to make sure is safe. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you. And what are the main I know we can't cover them all because there's so many, but what are the main benefits of upgrading to Business Premium when you're using Copilot?
Yeah, so when you're using Business Premium, so if we park Copilot to one side, I guess the main benefit of using Microsoft 365 Business Premium is that it includes quite a lot of those security tools that are going to make it easier for you to audit your data and keep it safe. So for example, in Microsoft 365 Business Premium, you've got things like risk-based access control that you can set up. What that does is it allows you to say, do you know what, this is a really sensitive document. I only want it to be possible for people to open this if they're opening it from our office. So here's the IP address of the office. If they try and open it from somewhere else, I'd like it to have an error. So if then somebody from, I don't know, picking on them all the time, like a Chinese or a Russian hacker tries to get into your data, it will see that the IP address is outside the country, and it will say, hold on, I can't let you in, you're blocked. And because that's become such a prevalent issue, these attacks, trying to get into data, that's a really good way to protect it further. So that's one of the things that Business Premium will allow you to do, is kind of use some of these advanced security tools to protect the data. So that can make it a lot easier for you to get where you want to be in terms of setting up and preparing to use Copilot.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
there's, there's a question in the chat that Chloe's asked as well, which is, I built an agent in Copilot, but it wouldn't let me save it and I lost it. Do you know why it wouldn't let me save? So I don't off the top of my head, but there's a couple of possible reasons for that. If you do not have a Copilot paid license set up, and you reference something that is not supported, such as a SharePoint folder, that could be a reason why it wouldn't allow you to save, because you wouldn't have access to sort of connect those things in. It is possible to use Copilot without a license, even with SharePoint, but there's a lot of back-end stuff you've got to do. If that sounds like it's what's happening to you, feel free to prod me afterwards with a few more questions, Chloe. But that's the most probable issue. The only other thing I can think of is that you might maybe weren't signed in a way where you were permitted to build an agent. So it could be something that's been managed by your your IT team, something like that. But yeah, that may give you something to go on. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know. There could be a few things that could affect that. Any other questions your side, Eve?
Yeah, so I've had another question. This is something people are talking a lot about. So we hear in the news a bit about AI with net zero and the environmental impacts that AI is having. So how
Yes.
can people ensure that the AI tools they're using aligns with their net zero strategy for the year?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. A really important question as well. So I guess first and foremost, picking Copilot's a good shout, because Microsoft is committed to generating all of their energy in a way that is green. So they're already essentially fully green in the energy that they generate. So if you think about how AI works, you're sending questions, they're getting processed by data centers where the AI lives, and sending the answers back. All of those data centers, everything that's connected to Microsoft's Copilot tool, is powered using energy that is created through hydro, solar, wind, you name it. So they try all of these things, but they are carbon neutral in their energy generation. And then going forward from that, they've committed to being negative to the point where they want to repay all of their carbon debt as an organisation since they were founded in 1984, by the year 2050. So a lot of work to do for them by that point, but they're very, very green, I guess. The absolute quickest way to sort of offset any damage that you might be doing, if you feel really personally responsible for this stuff, skip a coffee, skip a meat-based meal, and you will absolutely offset any carbon generation caused by AI very, very easily. So if that's something you feel very passionately about, it's a bit like being vegan. You can just go vegan for a day, and that will absolutely offset a month plus worth of AI questions. But it's a very considerate question. It's a very important one.
I think that's a really good example to use though, because that comparison to just skipping making one coffee is the
Yeah.
difference, and the good work that you can get out of from using Copilot and AI tools. It just shows that there's so more advantage to it. Well, that's all the questions that we've had. So thank you so much for your time today, James. And if anyone wants to have any questions that pop into their mind later today, then just feel free to forward it on to us and we can get James to respond to you. And thank you again for everyone joining. The recording of this webinar will be sent out to all attendees afterwards with the slide deck. So don't worry if you've missed anything throughout the presentation, you'll be getting a recording over for that. And please do follow our LinkedIn pages and our events pages for more webinars. We've got quite a few coming up actually, where we'll be discussing some different elements within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So please do join those. And James, thank you so much once again for joining.
Well, hold that thought, Eve, because there's still quite a few on, and I suspect they might be holding for that PowerPoint demonstration that I promised as well. So for those
Yes.
who are hovering, let's get that one up for you. So the uh, tool that we're looking at, that narrative builder. So this is the pre-recorded version of this demo. I'll go through it quite quickly, but essentially what you're seeing here, we can go to our icon and we can replace a branded presentation with a presentation about a topic. In my case, what I wanted to do was essentially build a presentation that referenced a file. So this kind of does the same thing. So it's typing in the prompt, and then I can add the file to it if I want to. Now, that's what it was going to do, sort of generate the outline. I could generate the slides, but also I can kind of go through this and I can sort of check the different sections and make sure I'm happy. Maybe this one's redundant, so I'll delete that one. Maybe this one is good. I might want to move it here though. So I can drag using the side indicator. I've got this little plus that turns up in between. I can click on that and I can add new sections. So I might say, well, I want to add a section about this file. I can say I can attach a file, or I can do a / and search for it. And then I can ask Copilot to add a section about that if I want to. So when I've got like the big research document, things like that, one of the things I like to do is get it to essentially use that document for another purpose. So maybe to build a presentation or whatever the case may be. So another example here, look, it's picking up files to add the pieces it needs. So once that's done, we can send this into Copilot. It will generate very quickly because it's cheating, which is good. And it will build our slide framework. When it builds, it puts them into sections, it puts the notes on the slides, it does things like that as well. So it's very, very good at putting together a usable presentation. So this is kind of its first draft. And I can go through, I can have a look at what it's come up with. I feel pretty happy, I'm going to keep it. I can go and take a look at those slides. And what you can see on here is essentially what it now allows me to do is kind of work with Copilot inside the document. So I could, for example, pop a prompt in there, add a branded image of a commercial EV charging station, drop that in. It will come up with some ideas for the images and I can have a look at those. I can pick the one I like and I can insert it. When I do that, it's a bit scruffy. So then I can use the designer and I can have a look at the formats and so forth, pick one that I like, and get that presentation sort of sorted out. Now, once we're done with that, I can close that off. I can check those notes. I mentioned to you that it would add notes. It will pull those from the documentation I give it as well. And when I'm done with all of that, I can present, and yeah, I've built my presentation very, very quickly using the content that I've researched, and PowerPoint's kind of done the work for me with Copilot. So there are a lot of tools like that dotted out through the applications. That was a really, really quick demo, so apologies it was so fast, but I hope for those of you who are hanging on for that, I hope that's of interest to you. If you want to know any more about it, give us a shout.
I think it just goes to show how fast you did it, though, how easy it is to do. And that's just brilliant because the ease of use is such a good benefit to people. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yes, it's a very, very good tool. I use it a lot, I have to say, but it does take a bit of time just to get your head around how you want to use it, really. That's the hard part, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, the strategy part, and that's why we're here to help, obviously. So if anyone does want to discuss their AI strategy rollout, please do get in touch with us today. There's people on hand to have a video call today if you are available. Is it equally as useful in Excel? Oh, I love Copilot in Excel.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can help you with formulas. It can build sheets from scratch. If you've got a paid license, you can essentially go into Teams even and say to Copilot, "Hey, I'm trying to build a timesheet or a spreadsheet to manage expenses. Can you build me a starting framework?" And it will do that, and it will put the formulas in and the conditional formats, all that kind of stuff. So yes, I think so. It can take a bit of tweaking, of course, as with all of these things, but yes, it is very good.
I found it most useful is just quickly putting up the Copilot chat and saying what's the formula to do this and to do that, because even though I've used Excel for many, many years, sometimes I'll just forget the formula I want to use. So you can just really quickly insert it.
It's really good for sort of coaching you on how to do things.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So yeah, absolutely. That can be something quite complex, like building a website or building a program or making a formula for your Excel sheet, whatever it might be.
I don't know if anyone else finds the same as me, but I just find it so weird going from putting everything into Internet Explorer to now just using Copilot to find something out. And it's just the transition of that has been the most beneficial time saver in my job anyway.
Yeah, I fully agree. I hardly ever use Google anymore, I have to say.
Oh gosh, no. But anyway, thank you so much again for everyone who joined today, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Like I said, the recording will be sent out, so if anything was missed, don't you worry, you'll be getting a recording of that. And if anyone wants to follow up on any questions, like I said, myself and James are available today. Feel free to get in contact with your account manager. And if you are new here, then please do send us an email to sales@csgrp.co.uk, or you can visit our website to book a meeting link about any time today. We've got people on hand. So once again, again, thank you so much, James, for joining.
My pleasure. My
And I
pleasure.
will see you all for the next event. We've actually got quite a few events coming up. So if anyone is still on the call now, I'll just quickly run through that because we have a few webinars coming up. So obviously today we did Copilot 365 in the workplace. We've got a accelerating your journey to Azure and Microsoft 365 cloud PCs, and that is on Tuesday, 3rd of March, 11 a.m. till 12 p.m. And then we've got some joint webinars with QA, where we're going to be talking about female cyber talent within the industry. And then we're also doing a really exciting partner webinar with us customer Social Farms and Gardens. And that's just to be talking about, are you cyber secure, but to help deliver some prompts and some ways you can remain secure within that industry. So do please visit CSG events to sign up for those today. Thank you again, James, and thank you everyone for joining. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.